The Senate will come to order. I ask everyone to please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. In the absence of clergy, let us bow our heads in a moment of silent reflection or prayer. Reading of the Journal.
In Senate, Monday, February 9, 2026, the Senate met pursuant to adjournment. The Journal of Sunday, February 8, 2026 was read and approved. A motion to Senate adjourn.
Without objection, the Journal stands approved as read. Presentation of petitions, messages from the Assembly, messages from the Governor, reports of standing committees, reports of select committees, motions, communications and reports from state officers, motions and resolutions. Senator Gineris.
Good afternoon, Madam President. At this time, I move to adopt the resolution calendar.
All those in favor of adopting the resolution calendar, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution calendar is adopted. Senator Gineris.
Please recognize Senator Mayer for an introduction.
Senator Mayer for an introduction.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm extremely proud to have a group of terrific high school students from Mamaroneck High School here today and the OCRA program. OCRA stands for Original Civic Research and Action, a program that was started by Joe Liberti, a teacher in the Mamaroneck High School, who has built his whole program on civic engagement by young high school students, showing that notwithstanding, as Senator Bailey said earlier today, this impression of young people is entirely inaccurate. We have students who are here to witness what happens in the state capitol, to make sure their voices are heard, and to learn how to advocate and advocate for the issues they care about. So I hope you will recognize them and give them all the cordialities of the House. I'm so pleased they could be here and see us in person, in action.
To the students representing the OCRA program, welcome to the state capitol. I extend to you the cordialities of the House. Please rise and be recognized. Senator Gineris.
Madam President, I believe we're still on motions and resolutions. I have a motion on behalf of Senator Ramos. On page 8, I offer the following amendments to Calendar 134, Senate Print 5990, and ask that said bill retain its place on third reading calendar.
The amendments are received and the bill will retain its place on a third reading calendar.
And on behalf of Senator Mayer, on page 12, I offer the following amendments to Calendar 176, Senate 2598, and ask that said bill retain its place on third reading calendar.
Amendments are received and the bill will retain its place on the third reading calendar.
Please take up the reading of the calendar.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 103, Senate Print 4030A by Senator Fernandez, an act to amend the Environmental Conservation Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 103, vote in the negative are Senators Borrello, Chan, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Lanza, Obaraka, O'Mara, Ort, Rhodes, Steck, Tedisco, Walzett, Weapon, White. Ayes 47, Ayes 15.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 105, Senate Print 4513 by Senator Ramos, an act to amend the Environmental Conservation Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 180th day and shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 105, vote in the negative are Senators Ort and Walzett. Ayes 60, nays 2.
Sorry, Senator Ramos to explain her vote.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I am, of course, voting to support my bill that creates a public review process for climate projects in communities that are frontline to the environmental crisis, like mine in Queens. We suffered tremendously during Hurricane Ida. They tried to put a peaker plant in the part of Astoria I used to have prior to redistricting. We just want our communities to be able to have a say in what happens in them. We want to make sure that we are able to either make projects better or to stop bad projects when we can. So this is about equity. This is about making sure the voices in disadvantaged communities are heard. And we are hopeful that this is only going to strengthen our ability to meet our climate goals through the CLCPA and others, so that we can make this a leading state in the fight for sustainability. Thank you so much, Madam President.
Senator Ramos to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 105, vote in the negative are Senators Martins, Ort, and Walczak, ayes 59, nays 3.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 106, Senate Print 4574B by Senator May, an act to amend the Environmental Conservation Law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect 1 year after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Cooper, Ort, Sewell-Cutton, Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 131, Senate Print 2076 by Senator Mayer, an act to amend the Labor Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Cooper, Ort, Sewell-Cutton, Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 138, Senate Print 1329 by Senator Parker, an act to amend the Public Service Law.
Laid aside.
Calendar number 232, Senate Print 925 by Senator Kavanaugh, an act to amend the Real Property Action and Proceedings Law.
Read the last section.
Section 6, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell-Cutton, Zellner.
Announce the
In
results.
relation to calendar 232, vote in the negative are Senators Borrello, Oberacker, Palumbo, Steck, Tedisco, and Weber. Ayes 56, nays 6.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 235, Senate Print 4852 by Senator Skoufis, an act to amend the executive law.
Laid aside.
Calendar number 248, Senate Print 4804 by Senator Ryan, an act to amend the vehicle and traffic law.
Read the last section.
Section 13, this act shall take effect on the 180th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell-Cutton, Zellner.
Senator Ryan to explain his vote.
Well, thank you, Madam President. I just want to rise today and speak in favor of this great piece of legislation, which takes on a very real and a very urgent need to concern for our first responders. Across New York, police officers, firefighters, volunteer firefighters, and our ambulance companies. In many, many communities, small communities, particularly in rural areas, we are heavily dependent on emergency responders. These are not individuals that are waiting around in a station. When an alarm sounds, they respond from home, they respond from work, or wherever they happen to be. In an area of crisis, in a moment of crisis, those seconds matter. But unfortunately, the physical layout of many of these emergency facilities creates unnecessary hazards. Many of these stations sit along busy roadways without traffic signals or warning devices to slow motorists. In other cases, volunteer parking is located across the street, forcing first responders to cross busy roads when running to the call. The reality of this is very troubling. Our first responders put themselves in danger before they even get to the emergency by having to dodge traffic. This bill offers a practical solution. It authorizes local governments and fire districts to install signage, roadway markings, and traffic control devices around emergency stations to better warn drivers and to protect our important first responders. It also strengthens enforcement by increasing penalties and establishing a mandatory 1-year license suspension after 3 convictions for a failure to yield. Let's please protect our first responders, and I urge this bill's passage. Thank you.
Senator Ryan to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 255, Senate Print 122A by Senator Clear, an act directing the Departments of Environmental Conservation and Health to establish environmental standards for ambient lead and contamination in soils.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Giulianis Kruger, Ort, Sukkot, and Zellner.
Senator Claire to explain her vote.
Thank you, Madam President. Special thanks to our leader, Andrea Stewart Cousins, and our fearless Environmental Conservation Committee Chair, Pete Harcum, for bringing this bill to the floor. You know, I have been working to eradicate the toxic substance known as lead for most of my entire adult life. We've made great strides, particularly in housing, but to truly finish the job, we must stop lead poisoning from all sources, direct and ambient, from soil, air, and water. So I proudly sponsor this bill because no amount of lead is safe in any form or fashion. Therefore, we must have the highest standards. Lead poisoning is a completely preventable condition, and we must join in unison to forever eradicate lead from our homes, from our soil, and from our water supply. And this commitment must be a generational one, with complementary policy, funds, and interventions that revolve and are replenished each and every year for as long as it takes to make us as a whole healthy. Thank you to my colleagues in the Senate Democratic Conference for always leading on these issues. I look forward to a day when we can live lead-free.
Senator Claire to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 266, Senate Print 9073A by Senator Harcum, an act.
Laid aside.
Calendar number 267, Senate Print 9074 by Senator Harcum, an act to amend the Environmental Conservation Law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect on the 30th day after shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Giulianis Kruger, Ort, Sukkot, and Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 267, voted in the negative are Senators Martins, Oberacker, and Walczak. Ayes 59, ayes 3.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 269, Senate Print 1062 by Senator Serrano, an act to amend the Arts and Cultural Affairs Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 120th day after shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Giulianis Kruger, Ort, Sukkot, and Zellner.
Senator Serrano to explain his vote.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Today is Arts Day in Albany. We had a series of panel discussions with arts groups from throughout the state of New York, talking about how the arts are so important to their communities in so many different ways. This legislation, in a lot of ways, speaks to that need statewide. By creating arts and cultural districts throughout the state of New York, we will find ways to better nurture the growing arts communities in places throughout the state that historically have not had that level of support from our state government. We all know that the arts are transformative. We know that the arts bring about so many important things. Yes, of course, they are a huge economic engine, but the arts have the ability to promote social discussion that many other mediums can't foster, and they do it in a way that unites us, something that we need now more than ever. So the arts are important on so many different levels, yet they're often overlooked when we think about all of the different priorities that we have to deal with as a state legislature. But I really believe that this legislation will go a long way in ensuring that local arts organizations in places in different areas throughout the state that historically don't have a lot of support will be able to form cultural districts, that they can nurture the artist community there and have a really strong economic and social impact on those communities. I vote aye.
Senator Serrano to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 270, Senate Print 1377 by Senator Serrano, an act creating a legislative task force on outdoor environmental education.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Giulianis Kruger, Ort, Sukkot, and Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 272, Senate Print 83 by Senator Liu, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 272, voted in the negative, Senator Bridgeport. Ayes 61, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 280, Senate Print 195 by Senator Martinez, an act to amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 282, Senate Print 353 by Senator Rivera, an act to amend the public health law.
Laid aside.
Calendar number 283, Senate Print 1287B by Senator Passard, an act to amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 30th day and shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 291, Senate Print 672B by Senator Henchy, an act to amend the environmental conservation law.
Read the last section.
Section 10, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 292, Senate Print 1180B by Senator Giannaris, an act to amend the environmental conservation law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 30th day and shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 292, voted in the negative are Senators Borrello, Chan, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Lanza, Murray, O'Mara, Ort, Steck, Walzett, Weber, and White. Ayes 49, nays 13.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 294, Senate Print 9072A by Senator Harkin, an act to amend the environmental conservation law.
Laid aside. Senator Serrano, that completes the reading of today's calendar.
Let's please go to the reading of the controversial calendar.
Secretary will ring the bell. Secretary will read.
Calendar number 138, Senate Print 1329 by Senator Parker, an act to amend the public service law.
Senator Walczak, why do you rise?
Madam President, would the sponsor yield for some questions?
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes, Madam President.
The sponsor yields.
So in Section 2 of your bill, it reads, the department, meaning the Department of Public Service, shall adjust each utility corporation's residential fixed charge upon such corporation's filing with the department of an amendment of a rate schedules pursuant to Article 4 of this chapter to recover only the fixed charges and the operation and maintenance expenses directly related to metering, billing, service connections, and the provision of customer service. And it's that definition that I really would like to ask you about. Those fixed charges, utilities can only bill for metering, billing, connections, customer service, et cetera, that you've lined out. So are systems benefit charges included in that definition?
So as you know, the Democratic Conference of the State Senate has really been the leader in the state around utility affordability. For a number of years, we have really been suffering as a state, and particularly our constituents, with very high and unexpected surges in their bills. The purpose of this legislation is to narrowly define what utilities can add on and not create, a whole bunch of extra charges to make bills, balloon, and us to create some real deep affordability for constituents around those bills. So the systems benefit charge is not included in those particular charges. It's a separate charge.
And through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Are costs of mandated infrastructure from the state of New York included in the definition that you've provided there?
Definition, usually those things are decided within the context of rate cases.
Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
I do.
The sponsor yields.
Are customer benefit solar contributions, are they included in the definition that you've provided?
Not that I know of.
And through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes, Madam
The
President.
sponsor yields.
Are state taxes included in the metering, billing, connections, customer service, fixed charges that you've outlined here in this definition?
Through you, Madam President, they are not.
And through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Madam President, I yield.
The sponsor yields.
Are local taxes included in that definition?
Through you, Madam President, local taxes are not included.
And through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
The sponsor yield.
Are state and local
Yes.
surcharges?
The sponsor yields.
Are state and local surcharges included in the definition you've provided here? And through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Madam President, I yield.
The
Are
sponsor
sa-
yields.
Are sales taxes included in that definition of metering, billing, connections, customer service?
Madam President, through you, they are not.
And through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Are gross receipts taxes included in that definition of fixed charges on someone's bill?
Madam President, no.
And through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
What about the state assessment that people see on their bill? Is that included in those fixed charges?
Madam President, they are not.
Thank you. Madam President, on the bill.
Senator Walczyk on the bill.
This bill purports to reduce, and as the sponsor said, purports to reduce fixed charges on energy bills, but none of the fixed charges that the state mandates, making up to somewhere between 30 and 50% of your bill, are even included in the definition of this legislation. And even if any fixed charges are, utility companies will raise rates to pay for the mandates through supply charges. In fact, if this bill does anything at all, it may actually reduce the cost for the fixed charge that is on someone's vacation home or a residence that they don't live at, nobody's spending power at, or a vacant apartment building that has nobody living in it whatsoever. If there were any fixed charges, and I tried to enumerate a number of them, I couldn't think of any more because the state has put so many charges on your utility bills. But even if it did reduce anybody's energy bill, it would be reducing them for vacant apartments and vacation homes. This do-nothing bill will not lower the cost for New Yorkers in any type of real way, and I vote no. Thank you.
Are there any other senators wishing to be heard? Seeing none, the debate is closed. Senator Serrano?
Upon consent, we've agreed to restore this bill to the non-controversial calendar.
Call the roll. Sorry, read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, GNR's Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, Zellner.
Senator Martins to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, I appreciate the debate, certainly appreciated the questions and the answers, but there was a comment that was made during the debate. I'll be voting no, Madam President, but it says the very high and unexpected surge in bills. That was said just during this last debate. Very high and unexpected surge in utility bills. When this chamber starts to consider the impact of policies on our ratepayers, on our constituents, on their ability to pay for energy before we pass bills, and we have discussed this. On every one of the bills, including the CLCPA, we have consistently warned about the impact on our ratepayers of paying for all of these costs and the implementation. Now, someone can say, Madam President, that the cost of solar is less than any other form. Sure, if solar is working. But that doesn't take into consideration all of the subsidies that have been paid, the infrastructure that is required, and the costs of not being able to access that when there are snow-covered solar panels that don't allow for the transmission of electricity, much like the last few weeks here in New York. I'll be voting no.
Senator Martins to be recorded in the negative. Senator Harker to explain his vote.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I just want to rise to vote yes, and I'm glad to hear my colleague mention that we should be cognizant of policies, especially when we see, and the ISO, the Independent System Operator, releases a report pinpointing the cost of natural gas for the surge in the price of electricity. I'll say that again. The Independent System Operator just released a report pointing to natural gas for the surge in electrical prices because natural gas is no longer some homegrown energy efficiency. It's now an international commodity. So wanted to put that on the record. I thank Senator Parker for this bill. I'll be voting aye.
Senator Harkam to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 138, voted in the negative are Senators Borrello, Kansas Fitzpatrick, Gallivan, Griffo, Lanza, Martins, Matera, Murray, Obarack, O'Mara, Ort, Rhodes, Steck, Tedisco, Walzek, and White. Ayes 46, nays 16.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 235, Senate Print 4852 by Senator Skoufis, and that to amend the executive law.
Senator Walzek, why do you rise?
Madam President, I hope the sponsor would yield for some questions.
Will the sponsor yield?
Of course.
The sponsor yields.
What does this bill do?
Through you, Madam President, this bill is very straightforward. It requires New York's Code Council to incorporate revisions, updates within 18 months of revisions and updates being offered by international and national code standards.
And through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Thank you for that. The Codes Council, they already meet 4 times a year, is that right?
Through you, Madam President, I take your word that that is accurate. That sounds accurate. I know they meet a number of times a year. I will note, given I think I know where you're going with this, that the most recent revision of the international standards took our state's Code Council 5 years to incorporate. That's why we're taking up this bill.
And through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does
Yes.
the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
They're already required in statute to update the code every 3 years, though. Is that correct?
I think you heard the answer through my microphone, but through you, Madam President, I'm advised by counsel that that is not correct.
Thank you for the clarification. Through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
And one of the ASHREA standards, that's already standard, and they have to update our code to comply with that when it comes out already currently. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam President, that is correct. If you look under, I guess it's section B, line 47, you see that in addition to that one organization, we are expanding that to a list of 3 standards.
Through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Yeah, one of those 3 standards is the American National Standards Institute. Aren't we already more stringent in our building code than the American National Standards Institute?
Through you, Madam President, my understanding, confirmed by counsel, is that these standards, that these national or international standards, can be considered as floors here in New York. And so, yes, it stands to reason that we may be more strict than some or all of these 3.
Through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Why are the IESNA standards included in this new requirement?
President, what we're attempting to do with this legislation is really reflect the menu of options that are available to the state's Code Council. That particular organization and those standards are a very credible and renowned set of standards, and so we decided to add that to the set of 3 options.
And through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yield.
Yeah, so the IES is the group that gives some lighting standards recommendations. In 2010, the IES changed their name to the IES. They dropped the North America from IES-NA, but in your legislation, you say the IES-NA standard. Is that a 16-year-old typo?
President, we'll take that back and take a look. This is a bill that dates back to at least 2017, and we will take that back and take a look.
Through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Yeah, I brought up some of these concerns in the Housing Committee where that probably should have rested, certainly would have if my vote carried the day there. And I hope you would continue that back, to take that back. Will any of the changes proposed here require Codes Council to revert to a less stringent code than we already have?
Through you, Madam President, the answer is no. It just requires the council to make an adoption or at least a consideration of these standards.
And through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
So how will this adaptation of a new requirement with a couple of additional codes and a requirement for Codes Council to adopt them within 18 months, how will that lower the cost of building new construction, including houses in New York State?
You, Madam President, I don't know that it has any meaningful bearing whether that these standards are adopted 5 years later versus 18 months later, ideally sooner, as it relates to cost. What I am more concerned about in advancing this bill is protecting your and my constituents. As you know, embedded in our building code, at the core of our building code, are safety standards. Likewise, I'm interested in protecting your and my firefighters who run into smoke-filled buildings and rely on code enforcement and strict building codes so that amidst the smoke in these houses and buildings, they are not bumping into walls that should not exist illegally in especially apartment buildings. So that is really the reason why we are looking to make sure that these standards are adopted expeditiously, is to make sure that we have safe construction here in New York State.
And through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
How, and I appreciate your wanting safety. As we already pointed out in this debate, our code is already more stringent than all of these codes, including the additional codes that you're bringing in. But I'm curious how lighting standards would make it more safe for a firefighter if you're using the Illuminating Engineering Society or of North America, which would be a code that's 16 years old.
Madam President, a couple of things. First, certainly, in addition to safety standards within our building code, there are plenty of standards that speak to efficiency and other factors in construction. And so it's not an either or, they all exist. As far as lighting, I think if you were to ask most of your firefighters and most of your fire departments, they would absolutely tell you that lighting is a safety matter, and making sure that there is efficient and, I should say, sufficient lighting within our buildings here in New York State absolutely is relevant to safety, in addition to efficiency, energy efficiency.
Through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Yeah, I'm not sure the 16-year-old code and whether the LED light bulbs versus an incandescent would really make a difference when we're talking about lighting standards and our standard already being more stringent than that. But I did want to point to a section of your bill on page 2 from the top. You talk about the State Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. The legislature hereby directs that the State Energy Conservation Construction Code be adopted to protect the health, safety, and security of the people of the state and to assure a continuing supply of energy for future generations, and that such code mandate that economically reasonable energy conservation techniques be used in the design and construction of all public and private buildings in the state. And that is true now in law, except for 2 lines. You have added in the state's Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, and you have removed in this bill that anything be economically reasonable. Why is the word economically removed from statute in your proposal here today?
Madam President, I'd like to first note, this is the 4th time, assuming it does pass after this debate, this is the 4th time this bill will have passed this chamber. I know that my colleague is a voracious reader of these bills and voracious debater, and this has never been brought up before, and so I question what took you so long to have this conversation. Nevertheless, I'm happy to answer the question. The CLCPA in the statute, in the scoping plan section of the CLCPA statute, it already requires that the Code Council consider the CLCPA. This is an incidental update to the statute. This is an incidental change, basically a codification of what already exists. And similarly, the deletion of economically is incidental. If you look several lines down, lines 14 through 19, this is one of a number of examples where the Code Council they must consider cost effectiveness among other considerations.
And through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Yeah, the same question I would ask back again. Why specifically did you remove economic reasonable from what the code should be considering, the Codes Council should be considering?
Madam President, whether that word is there or not does not have any impact as to the Council's discretion and ability to consider cost effectiveness. It's an incidental change, as I noted before.
And through you, Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Yeah, it's pretty glaring, and on my sheet of paper, it's struck out and highlighted in red economically. If it's incidental, then why even remove that? What this suggests to me, and this is why I ask it, is people are very concerned about the cost of energy and the feasibility in paying for all of the mandates under New York's CLCPA. And what you've taken here is a couple of code changes that seem maybe not even relevant whatsoever to the state of New York, and you've subbed in a little line, New York CLCPA, and the Codes Council will, within 18 months, publish a new code under the CLCPA without considering how much this is going to cost. So I say again, why would you remove economically reasonable? How unreasonable should the housing costs and construction costs be in New York State?
Through you, Madam President, most of that commentary is not germane to this bill. You asked several questions that are not germane to this bill, and I have answered I believe the core of your question. I'll answer it for a 3rd time, which is that, again, despite or in light of striking that word or not, there is no impact whatsoever as to whether the Council can maintain its discretion and ability to consider cost effectiveness. And again, I will point you to lines 14 through 19, literally just several lines under the wording question we're talking about. As far as whether the public looks at this bill language or not, and I suspect that there aren't too many people of the 19.5 million who will examine this markup that we are examining here, but to the extent that people have concern about that line being struck, even though it has no relevance to the Council's ability to consider cost effectiveness, they will have that concern because elected officials like yourself will try and, despite the facts, despite my answers, go onto social media and cause a firestorm of craziness with misinformation and untruths. And we've seen that even in just recent weeks on your social media page, where you talk about hostile amendments and give people all sorts of ideas and grief and misconstrue what happens on this floor. To the extent anyone is going to be concerned about this word that has no impact or relevance whatsoever on the Council's discretion, it is because you will mislead them and convince them otherwise.
Through you, Madam President, with the sponsor yield.
Was the sponsor yield?
Yes.
Well, you could have just called me a liar, but I didn't write this bill, and I didn't bring a bill into this chamber, ignore the suggestions that were given in the Housing Committee, and bring a bill into this chamber that removes economically reasonable. You might call that a lie, but you wrote the bill. Misinformation, disinformation, you wrote this bill, you sponsored it, you brought it into this chamber. And what it means, by your own admission here today, is that you're taking the CLCPA, you're bringing that to the Codes Council, you're forcing them to redo the code on a faster timeline. You've removed the
Excuse me, Senator, could you not address the senator, either of you? Could you address the chair?
Sure,
Not
yeah,
you.
on the bill, Madam President.
Senator Walsek on the bill.
Let me try and be informative with misinformation. The problem is it's too costly in New York State. We have a robust code. Our Code Council meets 4 times a year. We take international building standards, we go above and beyond them. Bringing in lighting standards from 2010 and pretending like that's going to make the life safer for firefighters is not going to change a thing in New York State. Bringing in the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act and then removing economically reasonable from the Codes Council when they consider changes to New York State building code, that has an impact on everyday New Yorkers. I know why it's done. We still don't know how much it's going to cost to have the CLCPA fully implemented in New York State. The comptroller a year and a half ago said $340 billion. Well, we're just ripping the lid off and saying even if it's economically unreasonable, the Codes Council still has to do it. So as we have a housing shortage in New York State, housing gets more expensive when you pass bills like this. I'll be voting no and encourage my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Are there any other senators wishing to be heard? Seeing none, the debate is closed. Senator Serrano,
Upon consent, we've agreed to restore this bill to the non-controversial calendar.
read the last section.
Section 4, this action will take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Sukat, and Zellner.
Senator Skoufis to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I always appreciate debate. I appreciate inquisitive questions and the back and forth. But in this instance, I fail to understand why questions are asked if you're just going to ignore the answers. I stated literally at least 3, if not 4 times, that what my colleague just remarked upon multiple times is just patently, factually, evidentially not true. And yet, I imagine this will be a clip on a social media page in the coming days, and he will somehow, and I'm not going to use the L word, but he will misconstrue, he will misinform his own constituents. The reason why we're passing this bill is very straightforward. We are requiring the Code Council to adopt national and international standards in a timely manner. Everything we just heard a moment ago has nothing to do with this bill. Thank you. I vote yes.
Senator Skoufis to be in the affirmatives. Senator Lanza.
It would be nice if we can keep the personalities out of the debate on this floor as best we can.
Thank you, Senator. I did ask our colleagues to do that. Not one. I did say both, and I pointed to both. Thank you. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 235, voted in the negative are Senators Ashby, Borrello, Canzone Fitzpatrick, Chan, Griffo, Helming, Lanza, Martins Matera, Murray, Obrack, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rhodes, Steck, Tedisco, Walzek, Weber, and White. Ayes 42, nays 20.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 266, Senate Print 9073A by Senator Hartham, an act to amend the Environment and Conservation Law.
Senator Steck, why do you rise?
If my friend and colleague, the Senator Harkin, would please yield for a few polite questions.
Madam President, for my friend Senator Steck, I absolutely look forward to a few friendly questions.
Thank you, Senators.
Thank you.
Can we keep it cordial? Thank
The
you.
sponsor would please yield.
The sponsor yields.
Absolutely, Madam President.
Thank you, Madam President. What is wrong with this bill? No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. There's no reason this can't be a little fun. In all seriousness, if the sponsor would yield for a few questions.
The sponsor yields.
Thank you all. Senator, the PFAS is something that certainly this state and every other state in the country has been trying to wrestle with and make improvements on. So I understand where you're coming from with your intent on the bill. I'm sure this won't come as no surprise to you. A lot of opposition memos and concerns specifically about the effect that it's going to have on cookware. And I know you've talked to, you're aware of those, and I believe I think the PFAS Action Network has spoken with you, asked you about conforming the definition in your bill to be to conform with the EPA standards under the Biden administration that are still in effect to make it more manageable. And they point to other states and jurisdictions that have had some issues with it and have gone there and also pulled back. Are you willing to consider something similar to that?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you to the senator for the question. You know, we as states cannot pass legislation weaker than the federal government, but we can stronger. And that was the original author's intent. We remember this legislation was carried by our former colleague, Senator Hoylman Siegel, for a while, and I'm proud to pick it up, is that we wanted to have as strongest protection for New Yorkers as we can, particularly as we see the federal government has weakened PFAS regulations in other areas and has weakened other environmental regulations, that we wanted to set the bar in a high fashion, and that we wanted to include cookware. You remember the first version did not. Part of that was because there was litigation in Minnesota, and we saw that litigation dismissed, so that was no longer a concern.
Thank you. If the sponsor would continue to yield.
Does the sponsor yield?
Absolutely.
The sponsor yields.
All right, thank you, Senator. So just a series of questions that I just want to ask here along to show a train of thought here. You're aware that multiple major health and regulatory authorities, including the FDA, the American Cancer Society, the German Federal Institute for Risk Assessment, have repeatedly evaluated these chemicals with the nonstick coatings and publicly concluded that they are safe for intended use in cookware and for food contact applications. You're aware of that?
Through you, Madam President, I am, and for every organization that says they're safe, there are other organizations that say they're not safe. There are studies that show when Teflon is heated just as low as 350 degrees, it becomes a threat to transmit PFAS to food that's being cooked. Also, that it vaporizes, gets into the air. And so, you know, we take very seriously that PFAS, the NIH estimates that annually PFAS costs our healthcare system between $37 and $59 billion. And what we are also seeing from places like Hoosick Falls in New York and places all over New York State that now have to invest tens of millions of dollars to remediate PFAS from our drinking water system is that rather than, you know, include PFAS in consumer products and then fight to justify it safe, we need to stop including it in the production cycle in the first place to keep it out of our water supply when there are perfectly fine alternatives like stainless steel, ceramic, and cast iron, just to name three.
Thank you. If the sponsor continue to yield.
Does the sponsor yield?
Absolutely.
The sponsor yields.
Thank you. So are you aware that several jurisdictions have recently decided to exclude fluoropolymers or nonstick cookware applications from proposed bans or restrictions and these include such cowboy anti-health jurisdictions like California, New Mexico, Vermont, Canada, France, and Illinois?
Through you, Madam President, I am aware of that, but there are also Colorado, Connecticut, Maine, Minnesota, Rhode Island, and Vermont that now have included cookware. So there is a growing body of states. More states are banning it than those who are choosing not to.
The sponsor continue yield.
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes, Madam
The
President.
sponsor yields.
Thank you. There's one specific concern that was brought up under the bill here, starting next year, on the cookware PFAS. Cookware appears to be defined as refers to durable items used in homes, restaurants, institutional settings, and commercial kitchens for preparing, dispensing, or storing food, foodstuffs, or beverages. These items are designated for indoor and outdoor use and include pots, pans, skillets, grills, baking sheets, molds, trays, bowls, camping gear, and cooking utensils. And there's concern with the language of "and include" because it certainly suggests or raises concern about this isn't an exclusive list, but the list is beyond what's listed there. So do you share, or how would you address those that are concerned that, that the language that says "and include" doesn't exclude others?
Madam President, let me just confer with counsel one quick sec. We'll get you an answer.
Okay, thank you.
Through you, Madam President, thank you for the question, Senator. It's not just the actual cookware itself. We're also thinking in terms of the production, the disposal, and the end-of-life cycle. And again, the goal is to eliminate PFAS from the broadest spectrum of categories that we can, because it's not just the PFAS on the product, it's in the production, and it's also in the end-of-life cycle when we're talking about landfill leachate and leaking into our aquifers and fragile drinking water systems. And again, we talk about Hoosick Falls. With the two settlements combined, it was over $92 million. And we see municipalities all across the state spending millions of dollars to remediate PFAS of different sorts in public drinking water, and whether that's from the production side or the end-of-life cycle side. And, then we look at, some other examples. New Jersey just settled with DuPont for $2 billion. So this is not good for the businesses, and it's not good for our municipalities.
On the bill, Madam President.
Senator Steck on the bill.
I thank the Senator for answering the questions. To just circle back, the "and include" language raises concerns about what products would be incorporated into this ban. Could potentially include any product in the kitchen, including several major appliances such as your microwave, your stove, and your refrigerator. Again, I don't doubt the sponsor's intent here to try to address something. I do question the precision of the language, the unintended consequences that I pointed out, the numerous other states that, again, are inclined to head down this path and have started down this path and have found that for a variety of reasons, it's unmanageable, that you're talking about potentially 15,000 different compounds that we would try to manage, and frankly, having every state do its own thing and requiring manufacturers to try to make a product that's going to be saleable in New York State, and then another one that can be sold in Illinois, and another one that can be sold in Texas. I question the wisdom of the economics of that, the science. It seems like, once again, New York has identified an issue and has gone far farther than need be to try to get a hold of something when, again, we can benefit from the experience of other states, other jurisdictions, other countries. I don't know that the EPA has a reputation, or certainly the American Cancer Society has a reputation for being cavalier on public health. But you know, they have expressed concerns with overly applying, you know, a ban to apply to all cookware. There's debate as to whether these alternatives are truly alternatives. You know, certainly tried and true technology, but not the same as the cookware that we're talking about here. I think that the bill just goes too far. It's not the first time that I think I've seen this in Albany, and I will be voting no and encourage my colleagues to do the same until ours is a little more in line with what the federal government and other states are doing as far as the definition. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any other senators wishing to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, debate is closed. Senator Serrano?
We've agreed to restore this bill to the non-controversial calendar.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect January 1st, 2028.
Call the roll.
Adabo, GNRs, Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, Zellner.
Senator Harkam to explain his vote.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and I just want to assure you that I was being sincere, and so is Senator Steck at the beginning when we said we would have a cheerful debate. I have nothing but the highest regard for Senator Steck and always appreciate a good, vigorous debate. But I think it is so important that not a day goes by where we don't learn more about the dangers of PFAS. And as Council mentioned to me in the midst of the debate and reminded me that it's not just about the product itself. It's the production cycle, it's the product, and it's the end of life cycle. And we need to think broadly about that as it costs our municipalities tens of millions of dollars a year. And according to the NIH, it's costing us anywhere from close to $59 billion annually in healthcare costs. You know, the dangers from PFAS are real. And so I understand there is a reluctance to take a broad approach and some want to take a more incremental approach. But I would argue as New York goes, so goes the rest of the nation. We're proud of this bill. We want to thank former Senator Hoylman Siegel, now the Manhattan Borough President, for his work on the bill. And I'm proudly voting aye. Thank you.
Senator Harkam to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator May to explain her vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank Senator Harkam for this bill. Earlier today, we passed my bill about measuring and reporting PFAS emissions into our waterways from industrial and waste management sources. And the only reason we need that is because PFAS is getting into the environment upstream through products that are being sold in the stores and through the way we use those products in our lives. Pretty much everyone in this room has got PFAS in our bodies, in our organs. It's found in mother's milk. We need to get these products out of our stores. And I, as a cook and a mom, I want to know that I'm using products when I'm cooking that are free of PFAS so that I'm not poisoning my family. We're not talking about taking anyone's cookware away. We're just talking about making sure that what's being sold going forward is safe. And I think that is our job. I am proud that we're voting for this. I, again, thank Senator Harkam for this bill, and I vote aye.
Senator May to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 266, vote in the negative are Senators Chan, Griffo, Lanza, Oberacker, Ort, Rhodes, Steck, Walczak, and White. Also, Senator Tedisco. Ayes 52, next 10.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 282, Senate Print 353 by Senator Rivera, an act to amend the public health law.
Senator Lanza, why do you rise?
Madam President, I believe there's an amendment at the desk. I waive the reading of that amendment and ask that you recognize Senator Borrello.
Thank you, Senator Lanza. Upon review of the amendment in accordance with Rule 6, Section 4B, I rule it non-germane and out of order.
Accordingly, Madam President, I appeal the ruling of the chair and ask that Senator Borrello be heard on the appeal.
Thank you, Senator. The appeal has been made and recognized. Senator Borrello may be heard.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, I'm hoping that my words here today, combined with this suit that I'm wearing, will convince you that this bill is indeed germane to the bill in chief.
Nice suit.
Thank you. So today we're here to talk about this bill that is about having the Senate approve the Medicaid director, which I think is a good idea. I think this chamber should absolutely be approving someone who has control of what is now approaching nearly half of New York State's budget. That's right. Right now, Medicaid accounts for $115 billion of a $260 billion budget proposal. So what our bill actually calls for, this amendment, is for us to actually qualify and ensure that the people that are getting Medicaid benefits are actually exist and are qualified. And also we need to do a comprehensive audit. Medicaid has gotten out of control here in New York State and is costing New York State taxpayers literally billions of dollars. On top of that, it's estimated by the Empire Center that only about 5.5 million New Yorkers actually qualify for Medicaid, yet 8.5 million New Yorkers actually receive Medicaid. That's a $3 million delta there. On top of that, our Medicaid director has refused a FOIL request fully. It took 9 months for the Empire Center to get an answer from the Department of Medicaid on to whether or not everyone is qualified that's actually receiving benefits. And the last million people he refused to actually identify are qualified and are actually eligible for Medicaid. It's called the Medicaid Missing Million Report. You should look it up. 1 million people. If each one of those million costs us just $10,000 a year, that's $10 billion. Addressing that alone and finding that fraud, if it is indeed fraud, would actually eliminate all of the money that we are losing from the federal government. I know that's a big topic for the governor, all this money the federal government's cutting back. That's because they don't want to continue to support the fraud, waste, and abuse in New York State's Medicaid system. So we need to do this. We need to do a forensic audit of our Medicaid system. We need to verify that everybody's actually receiving benefits, actually is qualified. And by the way, I would imagine that a lot of those folks are not people that aren't qualified, they're actually fraudulently submitted service requests. In other words, providers, healthcare providers who are fraudulently submitting payments and are receiving payments for fraudulent work that was never provided. That's probably a couple $2 billion a year right there alone. We need to do this now. It is unbelievable that it has swelled as much as it had, and it is now nearly half of New York State's budget, Medicaid alone. If any part of our budget needs to be evaluated and cleaned up, it's Medicaid. And that's why this amendment to this bill is germane and needs to be done as soon as possible. The taxpayers of New York State deserve transparency, honesty, and to restore integrity to the most expensive system in New York State and the most expensive system in the United States of America, New York State's bloated and fraudulent Medicaid system. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. I want to remind the House that the vote is on the procedures of the House and the ruling of the chair. Those in favor of overruling the chair signify by saying aye. Lanza? A show of hands has been requested and so ordered.
Ayes 22.
Announce the results.
Ayes 22.
The ruling of the chair stands and the bill in chief is before the House. Senator Serrano.
Upon consent, we've agreed to restore this bill to the non-controversial calendar.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this action took effect on the 1st of January.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 294, Senate Print 9072A by Senator Harkam, an act to amend the Environmental Conservation Law.
Senator Murray, why do you rise?
Thank you, Madam President. Would the sponsor yield for some friendly and hopefully informative questions?
For,
sponsor yield.
Through you, Madam President, for my friend Senator Murray, anything.
The sponsor yields.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator, I want to just kind of cover who is covered under this bill and how they are covered. So let's start with the who. If I gave you an example, two companies, one is a concrete crushing company that makes $999 million in revenue. The other, a solar panel manufacturing company that makes $1.5 billion. Which of those two, or would they both be covered under this bill?
It depends. If the concrete manufacturer has net worldwide sales less than $1 billion and they're less than, or they're less than, they're less than $1 billion, then they're just not included. No one under $1 billion is included. The solar panel company must also, in addition to the $1 billion threshold, must have at least $1 million in direct revenues in New York State. So if they operate in New Jersey or Connecticut but have no operations in New York, they would not fall under the guidelines of this bill.
Thank you. Madam President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Absolutely.
The sponsor yields.
Thank you. So on the bill language, I'm looking at section 740101 under definitions. That would be section 3, line 21. Scope 1 emissions means all direct greenhouse gas emissions that stem from sources that a reporting entity owns or directly controls, regardless of location, including but not limited to fuel combustion activities. The next section, line 25, Scope 2 emissions means indirect greenhouse gas emissions from consumed electricity, steam, heating, or cooling purchased or acquired by a reporting entity regardless of location. So I'll go back to my example. We have the concrete crushing company that's located in Albany, and again, their revenue was under $1 billion, so they're not covered. Doesn't matter. But the solar panel manufacturing company, now say they're manufacturing in Florida, but they have a distribution center here in New York, and their revenue, as we said, was over $1 billion, and yes, 1% of that is generated here in New York. Does that qualify under this bill? Would both sections have to report under this bill?
It would, because we're talking about global emissions, right? Because we understand emissions don't recognize state borders. This is a global or a planetary issue, and that's why they would qualify.
Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Thank you. And I think you covered it under that answer, but I'm going to ask it to get it on the record anyway. We're going to use that same example, but the solar panel company is manufacturing now in China, but they have the distribution center here in New York with 1% of their revenue coming from New York. Still required to report both New York and China?
They are. And it's a good question because a lot of the companies that are covered under this are multinationals. I would say not all of them, but you know, when you're talking companies over $1 billion, you know, a lot of those are multinationals. So those are covered, for instance, in the EU, and the EU actually goes a step further and requires a qualitative climate change analysis in addition to those emissions, which our bill does not do. Our bill is really to get public transparency so that consumers can make educated decisions from the companies that they patronize, and that institutional investors who have a certain social investing filter can also make those qualified and educated decisions. And because the EU and now California are doing this, and many institutional investors, the pension funds, as I mentioned before, who have a social screen on their investments, are requiring many of the large companies to do this anyhow. And so a lot of the companies are doing this. We are just saying we need you to report in New York, and those who are not yet doing this, we add them to the list.
Madam President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
And thank you for that answer. Now, if this same company, we'll stick with the solar panel manufacturing company, if they fail to report emissions that occur outside of New York, can they be punished under this bill? And how would they be punished?
Through you, Madam President, yes, they would be, for the reason that we mentioned before, that this is a global issue, and it's also a transparency issue for consumers and investors here in New York, so they would be. But I should also note that under Scope 3 emissions, number one, there's a year lag in the reporting, and then the penalties would, for Scope 3 would not take effect until 2032, assuming that the bill is passed this year.
Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Okay, since we're on the scenario, I'm going to bring that company out of China and back to the United States. So they're going to be manufacturing in Florida for the purpose.
We like that. We want to bring
go.
those Chinese companies to the United States.
We like the manufacturing part. I don't know about the penalizing them. But so them being in Florida, does New York have the right to regulate interstate commerce? Isn't that what we're doing here?
Through you, Madam President, Madam President, as I thought, this was a contested issue in the California litigation, and the courts dismissed this. So there were three different allegations brought in the California lawsuit. Two of them were dismissed, and this was one of them.
Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor
Yes.
yield? The sponsor yields.
Thank you. Now, that's the California bill. I'd like to discuss this bill and go back to the original question is, aren't we regulating interstate commerce with this bill? If we're going to penalize Florida and New York, say, for example, under this situation, this solar panel manufacturing company, their main headquarters is Florida. That's where they do most of the business, but they have a distribution center in New York that generates 1% or more of revenue, but their main headquarters is Florida. We're still punishing a Florida company. New York is doing this. Isn't that exactly what regulating interstate commerce is?
Because they're doing business in New York, and this is designed to protect New York consumers and New York investors so that New Yorkers can make qualified decisions.
Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Thank you. And Senator, you had mentioned that it is a global problem, that the pollution or such is a global problem, national problem. But again, I go back to, aren't we, through this legislation, wouldn't this be considered national legislation or federal? This is exactly what the definition of regulating interstate commerce would be. If we are passing laws that will govern another state and the commerce between the states.
President, we are not governing another state. We are not punishing other states. We are asking for transparency for New York consumers and New York investors to make educated decisions.
Continue to yield.
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor
Thank you.
yields.
So I'm going to go with the California. Now, when California introduced theirs, they had given us an estimate that about 4,000 companies would be required to report. Do we have an estimate as to how many companies would be affected by this bill?
Madam President, we don't have that exact number. What we can say is that a number of the companies will be the same. There will be a lot of overlap. The other thing we should say is that these are huge companies that have the ability and the wherewithal to comply with this, Madam President. These are not your mom and pops. These are not even, your regional companies. With $1 billion in revenue, this is a sizable company.
Does the sponsor yield?
Absolutely.
The sponsor yields.
So I do want to talk about the penalty aspect of it. And yes, I understand we're reaching larger companies with deeper pockets. But The bill has civil penalties for willful violation, including non-filing, late filing, or any other compliance issues of up to $100,000 per day, up to $500,000 per filing year. Why are these penalties so high, and won't that have an impact on these very consumers we're talking about?
Through you, Madam President. Number one, as we said, many companies are already complying with this, either through the EU or will be in California. There are software packages that help companies comply with this. This is not the heavy lift it might have been 10 years ago. And so the reason the penalties are so high is when you're talking about a pension fund who's going to be investing billions of dollars in a company based on a certain value set, they have a right to have true transparency. You know, unfortunately, what we have seen far too often is many companies make grandiose, but unfortunately not always true statements about their commitments to sustainability. And so the statement sounds great, but then when you look under the hood, you know, either they're not complying with what they're doing or they're backtracking. Some would call that greenwashing. I would like to, you know, give some companies a benefit of the doubt on that. But this is about protecting, you know, investors who are investing in some cases billions of dollars in these companies on a value proposition or what's called a social screen. And they should have the transparency, as do New York consumers, to know that that the company that they're buying products from is indeed who they say they are.
Thank you. Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Absolutely.
The sponsor yields.
Thank you. And I just have one more kind of a technical question. New York State DEC just finalized its Part 253 GHG reporting rule. How do the reports under this bill compare to those under Part 253?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for that question. There will be a little overlap, but not always exclusively overlap, because that is really on local emitters, and some of those folks are not going to have $1 billion in revenue, or they will, and they will comply with both. But we don't expect there will be a huge amount of crossover, because again, we're talking about the multinational corporations in many cases.
Thank you. Madam President, on the bill?
Senator Murray on the bill.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that. And I appreciate what you're kind of trying to accomplish here. I appreciate that, and I get it. But I do have a problem with the aspect of New York saying, I mean, listen, we have state lines, we have boundaries, we have borders. They need to be respected. We don't legislate other states. If we want to penalize a polluting company in New York that is polluting in New York, I get that. But to say you've got a company doing business in New York, but they have other areas or operations in either other states or even other countries, to then reach that far out and say, well, you're polluting in China or you're polluting in France or Italy, we're going to penalize you for that. I think that's a little, well, no, way out of our scope and out of our boundary. I'd like to see us just concentrate here on New York, because I do believe that is the definition of interstate commerce, especially when we're talking about other states. So for that reason, and the fact that I think to a degree it is a bit duplicative with some of the rules we already have in place, for that reason I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Senator Borrello. Senator Martins?
Would the sponsor yield for a few questions?
Sure. Will the sponsor yield?
Certainly.
The sponsor yields.
I just want to understand a couple of points, and I'm going to discuss it in terms of jobs. And so if we have a multinational corporation and they do no manufacturing in New York, but I think we'd all agree New York City is the capital of the world in many respects, and there are many companies that enjoy the benefits of having headquarters in New York City, and they employ many people. And so through this bill, if that company, multi-billion-dollar company, internationally positioned in many parts of the world, but with headquarters in New York. If they relocated their headquarters from New York City to Jersey City, would they have to comply with this requirement?
Through you, Madam President, good question. If they we're assuming because they're multinational, they have the $1 billion threshold. Do they do $1 million worth of business in New York, $1 million worth of revenue derived just from New York? And if they do, then the answer is yes.
Madam President, through you, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes, absolutely.
The sponsor yields.
Yes, but if they are in New York, they're located in New York, their headquarters are in New York, they're employing people in New York, they otherwise have no other presence in New York, would they have to comply with this law and this reporting requirement?
Do you, Madam President, if they don't earn $1 million, so let's say to your point, Senator, that it's a multinational corporation, they're headquartered on Park Avenue, but all of their business is in Europe and Central America and South America. They just have their headquarters in New York because they think that's where they should be because they have access to global capital and, all of the things that New York has to offer. But they don't have any sales in New York, they would not be. So if their markets are Europe and South America and other parts of the country, but as long as they don't have that $1 million sale threshold million revenue in New York, no, they are exempt from this.
And through you, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
So let's take another example. Let's say Amazon was looking to build one of their national headquarters, and they're looking for a place to do it. And let's say they decide to build that, or they're considering building one of those national headquarters here in New York, maybe even in Queens. And they promise that they're going to bring $50,000 or 50,000 jobs, but they have an extensive system of sales in New York through their network. They would still have to comply with this law, regardless of whether or not that headquarters was actually in New York, correct?
President, they would most certainly have to comply because they have more than $1 million of revenue in New York. They're a $1 billion company, but they are already complying with this in the EU, I can assure you. They will qualify to do this under California. So either way, whether their headquarters is here or not, they would need to comply. But I want to go back to the issue of the cost of compliance and the fees, which your Apple, to use your example, talking about a $237,000 cost that was proposed, a survey of corporate entities by Environmental Resources Management in 2022 of companies that are already doing this. The average cost was $237,000, and for a multinational corporation, that's not a huge price tag, I would submit.
Madam President, through you, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes,
The sponsor
absolutely.
yields.
Thank you. So our healthcare systems here in New York, whether they are a Northwell or an NYU Langone or any of the other healthcare systems that we have, would they have to comply with this law and provide a report to the DEC as well?
If they earn more than $1 billion and have more than $1 million in revenue from New York, they would, because their operations have greenhouse gas emissions and climate impact. So for instance, one of the hospitals used to be in my district, not anymore with redistricting. They're a Title V emitter. They do their own power generation for their healthcare facility. The power they buy. We often talk on this floor about where we get our power. Is it clean power? Is it coal power? Is it coming from Pennsylvania? And those are always, you know, good discussions that we should be having. And then is the third level, the scope 3 emissions, is like where are there, if we're using the hospital example, you know, where are their supplies coming from? What are their equipment coming from? And what are the greenhouse gas emissions there? Again, and we do this because greenhouse gas emissions don't recognize state boundaries. It impacts all of us.
Thank you. And Madam President, if the sponsor would yield for just one more question.
Will the sponsor yield?
Certainly, Madam President.
So to be clear, your bill speaks to sales and sales of either service, revenue that either comes from sales, services, or products within the state, and does not and would not include payroll or any expenses that a company has that is here within the state, even if it's over $1 million, even if it's, frankly, whatever that number is above that $1 million. It has nothing to do with their presence in New York. It has nothing to do with employment in New York, but only with that $1 million threshold with regard to revenue tied to sales or of services or products.
Through you, Madam President, you're absolutely correct. It's payroll. It's not payroll. It has to do with sales of products or services. But to your first example, they're in New York. They just want to have access to global capital markets. They don't do any business here other than pay their employees. They are not covered under this.
And Madam President, I said that was my last one, but I do have one more. If the sponsor would yield for one more question. And,
Sure.
and I appreciate this. I really do.
Was the sponsor
Senator. Thank
yield?
you.
Yeah, absolutely.
The sponsor yields.
And we've used the word revenue as well. And I'm concerned, and I just want some clarity on that. You know, access. Senator, passive revenue, is that included in your definition or not?
Through you, Madam President, the language in the law, which is taken from other section, section 209 of the tax law, it says, does business in this state and is deriving receipts from activity in this state within the meaning of section 209 of the tax law.
Madam President, thank you. Senator, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other senators wishing to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, the debate is closed. Senator Serrano?
Upon consent, we've agreed to restore this bill to the non-controversial calendar.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this act will take effect on the 180th day after shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sue Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 294, vote in the negative are Senators Ashby, Borrello, Kanzeri, Fitzpatrick, Chan, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Lanza, Martins, Matera, Murray, Obrecht, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rhodes, Robinson, Steck, Tedisco, Warzick, Weber, and White. Ayes 40, nays 22.
The bill is passed. Senator Serrano, that completes the reading of the controversial calendar.
Is there any further business at the desk?
There is no further business at the desk.
I move to adjourn until tomorrow, Wednesday, February 11th at 11 a.m.
On motion, the Senate stands adjourned until Wednesday, February 11th at 11 a.m.